I'm Sarah, a 40-year-old single mother residing in New York. I have nurtured mice and Gideon by myself since he was a child. Now at 23, our bond is stronger than ever, especially on a chilly winter night. Gideon returned home, weary from the demands of work and school, his appearance reflecting his fatigue. I proposed that he take a moment to rest in my bed while I settled beside him. I sensed him draw nearer, seeking warmth. He enveloped me in his embrace, cradling me softly, reminiscent of the way he did in his youth. Initially, it seemed ordinary, just a mother soothing her son Buddhas. We reclined in stillness. A peculiar, disquieting tension began to envelop me. The atmosphere was still, punctuated only by the rhythm of my own heartbeat. Gideon's breaths became more measured, and I wondered if he was drifting off to sleep. Yet, in that moment, he drew nearer, his arm encircling more firmly. Around me, I felt a chill, uncertain of what to do next. Part of me felt the urge to retreat, yet another part remained firmly in place. In that moment, an unforeseen sensation washed over me. A weight beneath the blanket, my heart began to race as I attempted to remain composed, reminding myself that Gideon was merely my son. Perhaps he was unaware of it himself as time slipped away. The tension between us intensified. Gideon remained nearby, his breath calm, yet I sensed the heat intensifying. I felt the urge to utter a few words to shatter the stillness. Yet the words eluded me. Arrived Gideon moved, raising his head to meet my gaze. His gaze was gentle, evoking a sense of comfort intertwined with a flutter of anxiety. Though he remained silent, his eyes appeared to inquire if all was well. I attempted to smile, yet it only intensified the weight of the silence around me. Gideon gleamed, remained on my arm. His face was warm and soft, as his fingertips moved with a gentle touch, igniting a feeling within me that I couldn't overlook. I maintained a calm breath, striving to conceal the rapid beating of my heart from him. As we lay there, I reminded myself that this was merely a mother offering comfort to her son. In that serene moment, with only the two of us beneath the blanket, my thoughts swirled relentlessly, evoking feelings that seemed unsettling yet impossible to dismiss. Gideon appeared oblivious to my plight. He remained by my side, his hand gently caressing in a soothing manner. His breathing remained steady, his eyes gently shut once more. I pondered whether he was drifting off to sleep. But then his hand shifted, gliding slowly up my arm. A surge of intensity coursed through me as he opened his eyes, locking onto mine with an unwavering gaze. His gaze held a question, as though he were inquiring if this was acceptable. If he experienced the same strange pull that I did. I murmured his name, my voice a mere breath. I felt the urge to withdraw and establish some space, yet I found myself unable to budge. The tension that lingered between us was palpable, akin to a silent tempest brewing just beneath the surface. Constructing in the stillness, we remained silent, yet the atmosphere brimmed with unvoiced expressions. Emotions we shared yet hesitated to express, as if it were the most ordinary of conversations. Gideon drew nearer. My heart raced, and my thoughts swirled, yet I found myself unable to retreat. I found myself in a conflict, caught between my responsibilities as his mother and the unusual emotions that had emerged. As Gideon leaned in, a wave of sensation washed over me. My breath caught, and every thought slipped away, departing, leaving just that fleeting moment shared between us, Gideon's. A hand settled softly on my shoulder. His fingers lingered, as if he too were caught in hesitation. The world around us felt distant, and all I could focus on. The warmth of his presence lingered, a steady rhythm of his heart for just a moment. I shut my eyes, seeking to find a sense of tranquility within. I urged myself to step back, to create some distance from the intimacy that was both perplexing and intense. But then I sensed Gideon's hand softly glide upward, brushing a strand of hair away from my face. It was a profoundly tender act, and yet it stirred emotions within me that I couldn't quite grasp. I opened my eyes, and there he was, gazing at me with an undeniable gentleness, a profound sense of trust. His face hovered near, allowing me to observe every minute detail, the delicate freckles, the soft arc of his lips, the way his gaze sought out mine. His gaze held a vulnerability that mirrored my own. And I could see that he was just as lost in this moment as I was, like we were both suspended in the stillness. As if time had frozen, my thoughts spiraled into a tempest of inquiries, uncertainties, and confounding notions, yet my body remained still. I was captivated by him, this individual I had nurtured, and yet he seemed like a stranger in that instant, as if we were destined to remain suspended in that silence for eternity. Gideon hesitated for a moment. Shattering the spell, he averted his gaze, a hint of embarrassment creeping in, and released a nervous chuckle while rubbing the nape of his neck. It snapped me back to the present, highlighting just how intimate our connection had been. I inhaled deeply, attempting to steady the whirlwind of feelings within me, wishing he remained unaware. "I apologize, Mother," he murmured, his tone laced with doubt. "I didn't intend to bring justice to the oddity I created." He sidestepped my gaze, and I noticed a flush on his cheeks, as if he were grappling with the same bewilderment. I was indeed. I wished to reassure him, to convey that all was well. Yet the words remained lodged in my throat. Words eluded me, and for the first time in ages, I found myself feeling uncomfortable in the presence of my own son. I extended my hand and placed it gently on his shoulder. She offered him a faint smile, wishing to alleviate the unease in the air. "It's okay, Gideon," I said, my voice gentle and calm, "it's just that we've been together for such an extended period, and it's likely that we're both experiencing a sense of confusion." Gideon nodded, and I noticed a glimmer of relief in his eyes, coinciding with the gradual easing of tension. The doorbell rang, its abrupt sound pulled us both back to reality, shattering the moment. A spell lingered between us, prompting me to rise swiftly. Feeling my heart still racing, I approached the door, grateful for the interruption as I opened it. I spotted our neighbor Mark standing there. Mark had always been warm and approachable. A reliable presence during times of need. Hesmald. Yet, his gaze held on to me for a moment, stretching beyond the ordinary. And I came to understand that I still possessed that peculiar energy from the moment. A peculiar sense of relief enveloped me in Gideon's presence. In that fleeting instant, I allowed myself to unwind. "Thanks, Mark," I responded with a smile. "Indeed, the house tends to become somewhat cold. I would be truly grateful if you could ensure the heater is properly repaired." As Mark entered, I sensed Gideon's gaze upon us from the corridor. His expression was inscrutable. I cast a quick look behind me at him, and for a brief moment, I caught a glimpse in his eyes, a spark of what seemed to be jealousy. Although he attempted to conceal it, I was taken aback by my swift departure. I found myself pondering whether he was experiencing deeper emotions than he was willing to acknowledge. Mark navigated the space, inspecting the heater and inquiring. They asked me about how things were at home, and we had Hesmald share his thoughts. Yet he continued to steal glances at Gideon, who remained silent, observing us intently. There was an unusual intensity in the air as I became acutely aware of his unease. It introduced an additional layer of suspense. Eventually, I retreated to my room, Satan. She sat on the edge of the bed, reflecting on all that had transpired. It was something I could no longer overlook. Yet, I found myself uncertain about how to confront it. At that moment, a gentle knock echoed through my door. My heart raced, a flicker of hope stirring within me at the thought that Gideon might have returned. "Step inside," I urged, striving to maintain my tone. Consistent John pushed the door ajar and entered the room. His expression was a mystery. He approached and took a seat. Beside me, he gazed at his hands, and we lingered in silence for a moment. "They carry the weight of it all, including Mom." He finally started to speak, almost a soft murmur. "I find myself in the dark about what's happening. I apologize if I created any awkwardness earlier." I had simply drifted off, appearing to wrestle with his words. I rested my hand on his, offering a soft squeeze. "Gideon, everything is fine. We are simply. Perhaps we find ourselves navigating through a fog of uncertainty at this moment. For an extended period, the pursuit of justice has been ongoing, and at times, it can become quite perplexing. He nodded, his eyes fixed on his hands. He lifted his gaze to meet mine. His eyes brimmed with a whirlwind of feelings. I found it difficult to decipher. "It feels different," she murmured gently. It seemed as though he was hesitant to acknowledge it. I was unaware of how Tor came into existence. For a fleeting moment, I experienced a profound ache in my heart, mirroring that same bewildering confusion. I considered extending my arms to embrace him, reassuring him that all would be well. Yet, I found myself uncertain whether it was truly what he required or if it would only serve to complicate matters further. Instead, I simply remained seated, allowing the silence to envelop me. Articulate our shared thoughts. At last, I inhaled deeply and gazed into his eyes. "Gideon, perhaps it's time for us to pause and reflect on the situation as a whole." I spoke softly, reassuring that it's all right to feel connected. It's perfectly fine to take a step back and find clarity in your own time. And nodded with a measured pace. In an unexpected gesture, he rested his head on my shoulder. Just as he did in his youth. It was soothing, reminiscent. Yet there was an unusual sharpness to it that I couldn't quite grasp. I sensed my heart warm, and I wrapped my arm around him, drawing him near in a tender embrace. That felt secure, even though I was aware that the questions lingering between us remained partially unresolved for the first time in quite some time. I sensed that perhaps we didn't need to possess all the answers at this moment. Let's approach this gradually, unraveling the details side by side. Even amidst the complexity, we remained there, simply holding on to one another. A wave of tranquility washed over me. A serene belief that, regardless of the circumstances, we would navigate our path forward. We remained in that moment, sharing a serene silence side by side. As though the chaos that exists between us could vanish simply by our proximity. Yet, beneath the surface, I was aware that it truly wasn't. It's as straightforward as that. The warmth shared between us was both soothing and disquieting. A sensation lingering just below the surface, impossible for either of us to overlook. After a moment, Gideon withdrew, gazing at me with a blend of feelings still lingering in his eyes. "I apologize." Mother spoke once more, her tone gentle. I offered a smile, aiming to provide him with some comfort. "It's all right." "Understood. Gideon, we will navigate this challenge side by side."